Most people do not burn out on airdrop farming because it is hard. They burn out because they run it as a permanent emergency, reacting to every hyped drop the moment it trends, opening wallets at midnight, chasing a rumor across 6 chats, and never once writing down what they already did. There is a calmer version of this, and it is not a secret tactic, it is a routine, a repeatable weekly loop that you can actually sustain, that protects your time instead of eating it, and that treats farming as ops rather than a slot machine you feel obligated to keep pulling. Why I run it as ops? I run real proxy and cloud phone farms for a living, so I am used to thinking in schedules, logs, and maintenance windows rather than in lucky moments. I approach airdrop farming the same way, as a small recurring operation with a fixed time budget, not a lottery I owe my evenings to. I want to say the honest part up front, before any of the routine. None of this guarantees an airdrop, a payout, or any income, and none of it is financial advice. The point of a routine is not a bigger reward. It is the same process you can keep running without it quietly consuming your life. The weekly window. The whole thing starts by giving it a container. Pick one block of time a week, an hour or two, and decide that this is when farming happens. Everything that is not urgent waits for that window. The reason this works is boring and effective. An open-ended activity with no edges expands to fill every hour you will give it. And airdrop farming has no natural end. There is always one more program. A fixed weekly slot turns an infinite feed into a finite task. You are not trying to do everything, you are doing what fits inside the block and letting the rest wait or go. The review pass. I open the window with a review pass, not with activity. Before touching a single wallet, I look at the short list of programs I am actually engaging with and ask a plain question about each one. Is this still worth genuine activity from me this week? Not is it hyped, not is it trending, is it something I actually use or genuinely find interesting? That question does most of the work. It keeps the list short, it stops me adding names just because a chat is loud about them, and it means everything that survives the review is something I can interact with for real reasons rather than out of obligation. Judging what is worth it. Judging worth is simpler than the noise makes it sound. A program earns a place on my list when I would happily use it even if there were no token attached, because it does something I want done, or because I am curious about it on its own merits. That filter is not just about sanity, it is also the honest read on how these programs tend to score participations. Systems that reward real sustained use are built to discount hollow mechanical activity, so genuine interest and staying on the list usually point the same direction anyway. I am just keeping the things I would use regardless. The log is the backbone. The single habit that makes the whole routine repeatable is the log. It is nothing fancy, a plain file or a sheet where I write what I did, on which wallet, in which program, and when. Without it, every week starts from fog. You cannot remember whether you already did a thing, so you either redo it pointlessly or skip it nervously. With it, the window opens on a clear picture of where each wallet actually stands. The log is what turns a scattered scramble into an operation, and it is the difference between a routine you can run for a year and a burst of effort you abandon in a month. Ricardo Habers-Tistanins inins irritabilir primament speed. The date, the wallet, the program, the action I took, and where funds came from if that matters. I am not writing an essay, I am leaving myself a trail I can read next week. A nice side effect is that this same record is the plain bookkeeping any organized operator keeps anyway, a note of which wallet is for what and why it exists. It is not built to fool anything, and it is not framed that way. It is just honest housekeeping, and it happens to be exactly what you would want on hand if a program ever ran an appeals process for wallets it filtered out unfairly. During the real interactions, then comes the actual activity, and here the routine stays deliberately human. I do real interactions across the wallets that have real purposes, spaced out rather than fired off in one identical burst. I am not running a script that does the same action on every wallet at the same second, and it is worth understanding why that matters defensively. The pattern that gets discounted by chain analysis is mechanical sameness. Many wallets doing the identical thing in the identical order at the identical time. Genuine activity done by hand across different wallets with different purposes simply does not look like that, because it is not that. Spread it across the week. I also do not cram every wallet into the same short sitting. If a routine has any flexibility, I let the interactions fall across a few moments rather than one rigid sprint, the way a real person's week actually looks. This is partly about how the activity reads and mostly about not hating the process. A rigid schedule timed to the minute is both a tell and a grind. A loose rhythm, some this evening, some in a couple of days, is easier to sustain and closer to genuine use. The goal is a week that a real person plausibly lived, because that is the week I am actually living. Check the official dashboards. Part of the window is checking where things actually stand, and for that I only trust official sources. The team's own dashboard, reached through a link I already trust, is the authoritative view of my standing in any program. Third-party trackers estimate and guess, and they are often wrong because the real numbers live in the project's own system. Checking the source also keeps me off the phishing surface, since the sites that promise to reveal your secret balance are exactly where trouble lives. One bookmark, genuine dashboard per program I care about is the whole tracking stack I need. Prune the dead programs. The part almost everyone skips is pruning. Every few weeks I go down the list and cut the programs that have quietly died, the ones that went nowhere, stopped shipping, or that I simply stopped using. This is not pessimism, it is maintenance. A list that only ever grows becomes the exact thing that burns you out. An endless graveyard of names you feel vaguely obligated to keep touching. Cutting a dead program is not a loss, because it was not returning anything anyway. It was just taxing your attention. The routine only stays sustainable if things are allowed to leave it, not only join it. How to tell it is dead to you? Telling that a program is done for you is usually obvious once you let yourself ask. You have not genuinely used it in weeks and do not miss it. The team has gone quiet. The thing that made it interesting is gone, or you have simply lost interest and are only still there out of sunk cost. None of that is a prediction about the project. I am not calling anything a failure or a winner. I am just being honest about whether it still earns my limited time. If the only reason a name is still on the list is that removing it feels like giving up, that is precisely the reason to remove it. Make peace with missing things. A routine like this only works if you make peace with missing things, and that is more mindset than method. The landscape is infinite. There will always be a drop you did not farm, a program you skipped, a window you slept through. That is not failure. It is the only sane way to operate somewhere with unlimited opportunities and one finite you. The frantic alternative, trying to be everywhere, is exactly what produces the burnout and, ironically, the thin, mechanical presence that earns you nothing anyway. Choosing to miss most of it on purpose is what lets you do the small remainder for real. It points in perspective. Somewhere in the review, it helps to keep points in perspective, because they are engineered to distort it. A lot of programs now score you with a points number that climbs over seasons, and the climbing number feels like a balance growing. It is not. It is an entry in a team's database that may convert to something on terms not yet set, or may convert to nothing at all. I keep that front of mind so the score does not start driving decisions I would not otherwise make. I am not promising any of it turns into anything, and none of this is advice about what to buy, hold, or risk. The number is a signal of engagement, not money you own. The security housekeeping slot. I keep a small housekeeping slot in the routine for the boring security hygiene that protects everything else, done calmly instead of in a panic after something goes wrong. Reviewing which contracts my wallets have approved, revoking approvals I no longer need, and keeping seed phrases and backups where they belong. This is ops, not advice, just the maintenance that any careful operator does on a schedule rather than never. Doing it as a quiet part of the weekly window means it actually happens, instead of the thing you meant to get to. A few minutes of housekeeping is cheaper than any cleanup after an approval you forgot about. Consistency beats intensity. If there is one thing the whole routine is built around, it is that consistency beats intensity. The most valuable ingredient in genuine participation is time. Steady real activity accumulated over seasons, and that is something no last-minute sprint can fake into existence. A calm hour every week, logged and pruned and kept small, compounds into exactly the kind of genuine, long-running record that holds up, while a frantic late night every time something trends produces noise and exhaustion. Slow and boring is not the compromise here. It is the actual edge, because it is the only pace you can hold long enough for time to do its work. Ayuk Zinans, The last discipline is refusing to let the list grow past what you can genuinely handle. Depth on a few programs beats a shallow, mechanical presence across dozens, both because genuine engagement is what these systems are built to reward, and because you have a life outside a dashboard. When maintaining your number of programs would only be possible by automating identical activity across everything, that is not a scaling win, it is the signal that you are running more than you can actually use. Keeping the list to what one real person can genuinely engage with is what keeps the routine honest, and it is what keeps it a routine instead of a second unpaid job. I farm these the boring methodical way, one calm window a week, logged and pruned, with no late nights and no chasing every hyped drop. The fuller version of this routine, the specific habits I actually use to keep it sustainable, and the tools I trust to make it manageable, are written up at airdropfarming.org, with no hype and no promises about any token, points balance, or drop. Subscribe if you want the ops view, the honest and methodical one, with the burnout math included and none of the guaranteed riches talk. Next time we take one of these weekly windows apart in detail, the exact order I run the review, the log, the interactions, and the prune, so a single calm session covers a whole week without turning back into the emergency it used to